At 82 years old, Dolly Parton's husband, Carl Dean, passed away, and while his death marked the end of a remarkably private life, it was the aftermath that truly stunned the world. For decades, theirs had been one of the most mysterious marriages in Hollywood. While Dolly sparkled under the relentless glare of fame, Carl remained deliberately out of sight, preferring a quiet life far removed from red carpets and flashing cameras. Fans knew him mostly through Dolly's affectionate stories that painted him as her rock, her anchor, and her greatest love. When he died peacefully at their Nashville home on February 29, 2025, it was not in a hospital surrounded by chaos, but in the stillness of the house where they had built nearly 6 decades of life together. In the immediate hours after his passing, Dolly made no public statement. Friends described the atmosphere in their home as hushed and sacred, as though love itself lingered in the rooms. Known for her humor and warmth, Dolly withdrew into private grief. True to Carl's nature, there was no spectacle. The funeral arrangements were handled entirely by Dolly herself. Every flower, every song, every detail chosen not for display, but as a final, intimate gift from a wife to her husband. The service took place in a small white chapel on their Nashville property, decorated simply with wildflowers Carl had once picked for her and framed photographs spanning their 58-year marriage. There were no cameras, no press releases, only family, lifelong friends, and a handful of people who had earned Carl's rare trust. What left those in attendance speechless was Dolly's tribute. For years she had built a public persona of glamour and resilience, but in that chapel she stood vulnerable and unguarded. Holding a handwritten letter, her voice trembling, she spoke directly to Carl, thanking him for loving the woman behind the wigs and sequins, for knowing the real Dolly long before the world did. She read from private love letters he had written over the years, some scribbled on scraps of paper, others carefully composed and left for her to find after long tours. The depth of his tenderness surprised even her closest friends. Then, in the most heartbreaking moment of all, she sang a song she had written only for him decades earlier, never recorded, never shared publicly. Accompanied by a simple acoustic guitar, she filled the chapel with a raw, trembling melody that captured a lifetime of devotion. It was not the polished superstar performing. It was a widow laying her heart bare. Though the farewell was private, its impact rippled outward. Soon, an unexpected wave of tributes poured in from across the entertainment world, revealing that Carl's quiet influence had extended far beyond what anyone imagined. The family of Loretta Lynn shared that in the early days of their careers, Carl had once driven Loretta and Dolly to a joint performance, acting as a quiet protector long before fame surrounded them. Kenny Chesney recalled Carl advising him that what happens when the cameras are off matters more than what happens when they're on, wisdom that guided his career. Hollywood voices joined in as well. During the filming of 9 to 5, Jane Fonda remembered Carl offering grounded, no-nonsense advice about fame while grilling steaks at Dolly's Tennessee home. Lily Tomlin echoed the sentiment that Carl possessed a quiet steadiness rare in an industry built on illusion. Even Paul McCartney described him as one of the most genuine men he had ever met, unimpressed by celebrity. Reba McEntire shared that after the tragic plane crash that took her band members' lives in 1991, Carl had called her, not with grand speeches, but simply offering to sit in silence whenever she needed company. That, she said, was who he was, a man few saw, but many felt. Then came the most surprising revelation. A retired Nashville music executive named Walter Harris stepped forward with a story that reshaped Carl's legacy. According to Walter, during the turbulent 1970s, Carl had quietly intervened when dangerous figures tied to organized crime attempted to exploit the booming country music scene. Though publicly known as a man who ran an asphalt business, Carl had earned a private reputation for diffusing volatile situations with calm authority. Walter claimed Carl protected not only Dolly but her friends, ensuring predatory industry figures kept their distance during a time when young female artists were especially vulnerable. In doing so, Carl allegedly sacrificed lucrative opportunities, allowing certain deals to fall away rather than let Dolly be manipulated. Most astonishing of all was the existence of a private journal Carl had kept for decades, documenting moments when he shielded Dolly from harm or turned down opportunities to preserve her independence. According to Walter, Dolly never knew the full extent of those sacrifices. The journal was not meant for revenge or exposure, but as a testament of love, proof that his quiet life had never meant passive absence, but active protection. As weeks passed, more pieces of Carl's private character emerged, painting the portrait of a man far more complex and quietly heroic than the public ever realized. Yet perhaps the most moving revelation came last. Before his health declined, Carl had secretly recorded a message to be played at his memorial. In it, his gentle voice spoke directly to Dolly, calling her his shining star and saying that if he could live it all again, he would choose the same quiet life beside her. No cameras, no crowds, just the two of them. He ended with a tender promise that he would be waiting for her on the porch. In the end, Carl Dean's life was not defined by fame, but by devotion. He was never the man in the spotlight, yet he was the steady force that allowed Dolly Parton to shine without fear. Their story was never about spectacle. It was about a love so secure it required no audience. And in the quiet echo of that chapel song, the world finally glimpsed what had always existed behind the rhinestones and applause. A marriage built not on publicity, but on unwavering, lifelong love. Create your first image. Got an idea? Try one of our new curated styles and filters, or imagine something from scratch. Try now caricature trend flower petals gold crayon paparazzi clouds department, photo shoot camcorder neon, fantasy Norman Rockwell iconic post rain, sunset iridescent metal portrait sketch dramatic plush retro anime baseball, bobblehead doodle, 3D glam doll sugar cookie fisheye quirk pop, art ornament art school.